We're live. Okay. Hey, everybody. We are live and I'm so excited. Hello, hello, hello. Who's excited today? Happy Thursday. And I'm so excited because I get to be here today with one of my nearest and dearest, Tamsen Fadal. I've known you for several years now. And every time I get to be with you, I'm so excited and happy because I just get to be with you. And I am really excited today because we get to celebrate you
Yes.
and
Oh,
your brand new book. So
thank
welcome.
you. Thank you
Jen.
so much. I love a celebration or a party.
Big
Thank you so
party
much for having me. I'm so excited.
family. Yes. So for those of you who do not know Tamsen, Tamsen is a 13-time Emmy winning journalist, a documentary filmmaker, a best-selling author. She was a trusted news anchor in New York City for many, many years. She doesn't look like she could be there for many, many years. She's gorgeous, of
Many,
course.
many years.
But a couple of years ago, she made a massive radical shift and decided to pivot and change and make a transition into. And I remember having lots of conversations with you,
Yeah, we
Tamsin.
did. I was still in the newsroom, like having the conversation with you, Rebecca. Like, do you think is it going to be okay if I do this? Am I going to freak out? How am I going to feel? Is it going to be okay? That was scary. That was some scary times.
Scary times. And hey guys, and I see Renee here. If you guys are here, say hey in the chat. Say hello. I want to know where you're tuning in from. Say hello. And if you guys are like in the middle of a change, a transition, you're thinking about a transition, let us know, because
Yeah.
this is something that we all go through. We're all kind of
Hmm.
thinking about making changes in our life at times. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a career, maybe it's just whatever. And so she went through this a couple of years ago and made a massive change. And now she is embarking on this whole new path of helping women. And so tell us what you're all about, what you're up to now.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. And thank you for helping me with that change. We always talk about like, oh, what's my next chapter? What's my second act? But it's never like on a piece of paper and you know exactly what it is and you just kind of flip a switch. And I know you went through the same thing. And I think at this time in life, I'm 54. And I think at this time in life, there's like we go through a lot. Like you said, we go through a lot of transitions. And for me, I was working in the newsroom for 30 years. And when I made that switch, women's health really like caught me. It was a very personal story to me, and I started advocating for women in midlife, women in the workplace, especially women in menopause, and it's just kind of taken hold. I did a documentary about 6 months ago called The M Factor. So that was amazing. I got to use my journalist questioning, what I always love to do. And now I'm working on a book called How to Menopause. But I'm excited to see this conversation happen, especially happen in the workplace, because I think there's a lot to it. There's a lot in this time that, changes, and workplace is not out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I know like a lot of you are probably out there right now thinking, you want to make a change, you're not sure like how to make that change. Tell us about like what was in your head when you were like kind of struggling about, you know, uh, making that change
Yeah.
and like that fear that kind of went through your mind at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of it. I'd gone through a divorce and, we've talked about that extensively. And I was very scared of that. That was a big change. And then to go through another big change in a decade's time felt like a lot. Like change is not easy. I think what I was afraid is that, I was afraid if I didn't make that change that I was never going to feel satisfied, you know? And so that was really why. And I felt like I just kept being tugged toward the information about menopause and perimenopause. And I was interviewing one doctor after another. I interviewed 42 doctors in my book.
Mhm.
And I just kept talking to them and realized that women, we need information and we need somebody advocating for us. And we need to be able to take charge of our health and reclaim our lives. And a lot of doctors are not educated. There's a lot of incredible ones that are, and I've interviewed those in my book, but a lot of doctors do not know about perimenopause and menopause. And it was important for me to make sure I brought the doctors that did to the forefront and share that messaging. And so, yeah, the change was scary, but not doing it, I think, was going to wind up being scarier.
Yeah, that's so important that you kind of went through that thought process, because you were like really struggling at that point with what's next in my life. Because you were like, what do I do? Where do I go next? If I stop doing
I
what I'm
was.
you were like, if I stop doing this, what I've known for 30 years, what's next? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do
Hmm.
with myself? And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like, if I stop being in this particular relationship, or if I stop being in this particular job, then what do I do? Like, what's that
Who
fear?
am
What
I?
fear? The fear of that unknown, right?
Hmm.
And I think, especially, with women, they're not really sure what's going on with their bodies at that point.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Yeah.
not. There's so much of that kind of brain fog. Do you want to
Oh,
talk about that a little bit?
yeah, I do. That was one of the big ones that hit me initially was brain fog. There are 34 plus symptoms of menopause and perimenopause. So that's kind of overwhelming. But if you are just trying to function day to day and you can't remember things and you're missing names and you're missing, you just can't have word retention, that really takes a knock on your confidence, like in a big way. And especially if you've been plugging along great and you're now in your 40s or 50s and you're like, wait a minute, why can't I remember what's going on with me? Is this dementia? Is it something very serious? Is it stress? What is it? And brain fog was huge for me. I used to do the evening news, so I would read a teleprompter and the words would just come in front of me and I would read along. And then for a few years I was having a really tough time where I couldn't recognize what the words were. I'd be like, what? Oh my gosh, what is that word? I'm just going to skip it. And if you were listening closely enough, you'd go, what is she saying? What did she just say? I just skipped a word. But that took a real knock on my confidence. And brain fog is real. Brain fog is a very frustrating thing to deal with. It can make women feel like there's really something wrong with them. I hear I've heard hundreds of women say to me, I just didn't feel like myself. And when you start to say those words to yourself, it's very hard for any other part of your life to move along smoothly until you get back control of who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, it's like I know that I know this particular word, and it's like it's almost like for me, it was like I was like reaching for something on a
Yeah.
shelf, and all of a sudden it was like
Yeah.
disappeared. It's like,
Yeah.
how
It's
do
so
I
true.
not know that particular word when I know it? Like, I can see it and it's just
Hmm.
gone. And
Yep.
it's so like shocking to me, because you know that you've always known that particular thing, and it's just, and then as you're walking away, it's like, oh, it's that. What the hell?
Oh
It's
yeah. It's really hard. It's jarring to you because you're just kind of going along doing things. Then all of a sudden you're like, uh, and then you try to make a joke of it kind of, but it's not funny and it feels
yeah.
awful. And it's frustrating. So that was one of the big symptoms I dealt with early on. And then I think that the other one was not being able to sleep and not being able to know what my solutions were to help. And that's really when I went down this rabbit hole and just started interviewing one doctor after another, and then moved into different areas. So once it went past menopause and I was like, okay, well, what do we need to know now when it comes to health in the bedroom, when it comes to sleep, when it comes to sex, when it comes to brain, when it comes to workplace and community? So that's what the book is about. And I've been excited to see so many women standing up and talking about it too, because my goal in the book, I'm not a doctor, my goal in the book was to teach women how to advocate for themselves and to make sure that they go in and they can ask the right questions and make sure that they feel good about doing it and don't feel alone.
Mm, so good. And especially when you're in a transition of your life, if you're, at the effect of somebody who's toxic, and you were in,
Oh,
toxic relationships at different times in
I
your
was.
life.
I was.
And so if you're in a toxic relationship, coupled with the fact that you might be trying to transition and dealing with all of this, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I wrote a section in my book called "Is It Your Husband or Your Hormones?" But it's with anybody who's in a relationship. And this is a tough time. This is a time that there are a lot of changes going on, a lot of transition going on. Your hormones are kind of going all over the place. It's a chaotic roller coaster. And we've got changes with relationships, whether or not you've been in a relationship a long time, haven't met somebody, and are out there dating. But if you have somebody in your life that's not necessarily aware of what you're going through, or if you're not aware of what you're going through, that's when you see a lot of issues during this time in life. And so I am positive that there are correlations between what we see when we see divorce rates in your 40s and in your 50s and where we are in perimenopause and menopause, simply because we are exhausted and we are feeling frustrated and confused, and we don't know what's going on. No one told us it wasn't like a benchmark that said, hey, around 38 or 40, this might be going on, and you might have this happening. So go see your doctor, and this is what your doctor should be talking to you about. Instead, we were like, hey, good luck. Your reproductive years are over, and then we don't know much else. So, unfortunately, we have a lot of doctors that have had to educate themselves because it's not something that was happening in medical school. But I certainly do see when it comes to relationships, it can be tough, and I think that awareness has to happen with all parties in those relationships for sure.
Yeah, and then you add in, like the cortisol mix or the dopamine
Mm,
that's going on, because of the love bomb cortisol,
yep,
mix. When you're dealing with a narcissist, it
yep.
can really do a number to your brain and to your body.
Yeah, I didn't even know what love bombing was, and that's exactly what I dealt with when I was in that relationship. It was a guy I knew for a week, and he was like, I said, I have to go to New York and go to work, and he's like, I'll come with you. And I went,
mm.
what? And he was like, yeah, we'll make it fun. And then I went away with my family, and next thing I know, he was like, I want to decorate your apartment for Christmas. I mean, I was like, why didn't we have that word then? I didn't have love bombing. I had no idea what a narcissist was until I met you, my friend. That's the
So
truth.
if you guys can relate to this, just put, I could totally relate in the comments. If you guys have any questions, let us know in the comments, because I see somebody saying great topic here in the comments. I would love to know, what you guys are thinking about this, and what questions that you guys have for Tamsen here. And, so what really started to lead you down this particular path? Because I know, for a long time you were kind of thinking about, what's next, or, really
Yeah.
sort of talking about that in particular. But really, what started to have you really pull toward this particular topic?
Yeah, I think is what happened to me. I was anchoring the news one night, and I had a massive, like, intense inferno happening inside, my heart racing out of control, and I ended up on the floor of the bathroom. And during a live broadcast, I never finished the broadcast. And when I went out in search of exactly what was going on, I didn't get a lot of clear answers. I heard that it was stress, and I was put on antidepressants. And then about a month or so later, I went and got blood panels done, and I got my results back, and it said, in menopause, any question, from my doctor and my patient portal. And I
Mm.
was like, wait, what? I'm in menopause? I'm only 48. Well, I mean, the perfect age, but then 49. And it set me on this path to say, like, how can I help myself? What do I need to know? I lost my mom at an early age, so I didn't have any of those kind of conversations. And what I realized was it wasn't me that was the only person, and that did not have a unique story, and I was not alone. And I set out talking about it on social media, as you know, and then I couldn't stop talking about it. Then we created the film, and we just had the world's hottest menopause party because I think it's a time for celebration. But it was really important for me that women feel like they can get the help and not feel like they're just suffering through this alone.
Mm. Yeah, and I think it's really all about really taking back your voice and taking back your power.
Yes,
I mean,
huge.
because I think a lot of times, it's sort of like a shame factor.
Hmm.
like people don't want to talk about it. People don't want to talk
Hmm.
about things that people didn't always used to talk about it. And it's sort of the same thing when you're dealing with a toxic person or a person in your life that you don't want to talk about. Like it's, people didn't used to talk about menopause, or they didn't talk about like
No,
aging in general, right? People didn't want to talk about aging because you're supposed to stay 35. You're not supposed to turn
of
50.
course.
I mean, turning 50 was like, oh my God, you're old, you're over the hill. I mean,
Don't tell anybody that, right?
don't tell anybody that. So, I mean, because even, certainly as a journalist, certainly as a news anchor,
Yeah.
by the time you were 50, you were like, you might as well be kicked out, you know? And
I always
so,
had that fear too. I always had that fear because a woman that I really looked up to had said to me, by the time you're like in your 40s, you need to like think about doing something else. So that it was always in the back of my head. She said, there's not really any older women with younger guys on the anchor desk. It's always in reverse. It's always younger women and older guys. And I was like, really? And, she was right. Now things have changed a bit, but, that was always something that really, really scared me.
yeah, and even, in the dating scene, the guys that are in their 50s, they want guys that are 30, and
Of
here
course,
you got remarried when you were 50, right? I mean,
I
it
did.
didn't work out for you. So, I mean, you ended up finding a guy who wanted somebody who had maturity, which was
Yes, grown up,
right.
not a
So,
narcissist.
not a narcissist.
And you've met him a few times now.
I have. Right? He's a great guy, great guy. So it is possible. So for
Yeah,
some,
and I had to heal though from that first relationship in a big way. I did have to heal from that because I was very confused after that because I didn't even know then what a I didn't know what a narcissist was. I met you after my divorce and I just had I didn't know what that was. I thought it was me. I thought it was all me. And I had no idea.
so for somebody out there who's like really dealing with the impact of that kind of a relationship, what would be the first thing that you would say to them about healing?
I would say, first of all, not try to jump into another relationship because you don't want to end up in the same type of one that you were just in. I think that that's huge. I think that a lot of my healing came through therapy. It came from time alone. It came from me asking this question, what do you want? Because when you're with a narcissist, it's really what they want that now you think you want. And you're so confused about who you are. And I really had to find out who I was again from little things, from like, hey, I don't like spending hours watching television. But when I was with him, it was everything was just kind of twisted in my mind. Hey, I like traveling. I like getting outside. I like people. And I just had become a very different shell of myself. So that time alone was really important. Therapy was important for me. And then I think really unraveling the what was real and what was not real, because I think you are in a place right now where there are two different worlds going on when you're with a narcissist. But I will tell you that the power on the other side of owning who you are, I met a young woman who actually is a huge fan of yours, Rebecca, when I was in Davos, and she had just gotten out of a relationship with a narcissist, and she said, what if I am on social and I find out he meets somebody? And I said, then you should feel terrible for that other person, but you should be so grateful it's not you. And,
Mm,
I think that there's a lot of that mindset that's very hard to unravel as you move along. But wow, once you do, it is very, very powerful, and it's a beautiful, bright place.
mm. So, for people who are like kind of thinking about like this brain fog situation,
Yeah,
and they're kind of trying to figure out, okay, is it brain fog from the narcissist, or is it brain fog because of,
yeah.
hormones? Like I know hormone replacement therapy is kind of a hotly contested topic right now. What do you think about that?
There was a study done in 2002, the Women's Health Initiative, that got a lot of women very scared about hormones. And there have been since subsequent studies that say the number one, the most effective relief for symptoms is hormone therapy. And that is coming from top experts out there. So I lost a mother to breast cancer. I am on hormone therapy. It's something that has really helped me and worked for me, helped me with brain fog. I'm getting sleep at night. I have estrogen back in my body where I did not for a very long time. And it was because I was very confused by the information in that. And so we've really set out to try to bring the new information and most up-to-date research to the forefront, whether it's with the book or it's with the documentary. I would say this: hormone therapy is not for everyone, but you will know whether or not it's for you by just going to a doctor and talking to them. And you will talk about different things, whether or not you have a history of blood clots, whether or not you have a history of breast cancer. But having a family with that history is not a contraindicator to not being able or being a candidate of hormone therapy. So I know that there's confusion out there. And I think that what I tried to do in everything that we do is lay out the options. Here's what it looks like: hormones. Here's what it looks like if you decide that that's not the path for you.
Mhm. Yeah. So what else can people do, women do, to support brain health so that they
Yeah.
can, have better cognitive function, memory, focus, all of the things that are so important so that they can function better?
Yeah, I would say first of all, more than anything, you've got to pay attention to just starting to take care of your life. Not always, not being worried that this is it and that's the end and this is the way it's going to be, because I'm telling you it's not. On the other side of it, I had brain fog for a very, very long time, and I've come out the other side and feel so good, but it can be so darn scary when you're going through it. I would also say not to feel like it's the absolute worst right away, because that's not exactly what it is. I know that I interviewed a doctor that was worried she had a brain tumor when she was not able to remember her medical license. So I know that it can be scary. But I will say that there are solutions out there to pay better attention to what you're eating. There's brain food in there. Getting out there and exercising and getting sunlight, or just getting outside the first part of the day, making sure that you are really getting sound, good sleep. Even monitoring sleep is a smart thing to do for me anyway. It's been very, very helpful. And I would say also, just being aware of what you're going on and what some of those changes were, because you will find yourself saying, "What was I just saying?" several times, forgetting why you entered a room, forgetting where your keys are. But there's, having cognitive evaluations is not something you have to go right to. Oftentimes, if you're in your 40s, you've got some of the other symptoms that we've talked about. Most likely, we're dealing with perimenopause, and you're dealing with a reduction of estrogen. But brisk walking outside nature to reduce stress levels, watching what you're eating, putting into your body. I think sleep, a really important time to clear your brain. I mean, I do puzzles too. That's my new thing. I've started puzzles every morning just to kind of get my brain working a little bit.
Hmm. I like fresh air, sun, uh,
Huge,
yeah, exercise,
huge.
for sure. I like to dance, like just, like,
I like that. Well, you
yeah,
and I went for a long walk the last time I was there. It's
I
just, it's
know.
in community. I think community is really important too,
Community
Rebecca.
is
I think
so
especially at
important.
this age.
Community is so important. I just started my Slay Momentum Society. I see Michelle Malonis here, who's part of my Slay Momentum Society. Everybody needs to join my Slay Momentum Society. It's a massive open invitation for everybody to join it. My boot camp, I'm doing boot camp tomorrow. Everybody come join my boot
Amazing.
camp. Yeah.
Amazing.
So you guys can join slaymomentum.com/join, because seriously, it's like less than the price of a cup of coffee, because that is, I mean, I wasn't planning on plugging that today, but really that
Why
is,
not?
yeah, today is about Tamsen, but I am, that's why I created my new community for
That's
that.
community. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Today's about Tamsen, her brand new book. Tell us the name of your book and where they can get it and all about it.
Oh yeah, howtomenopause.com. We've got like $400 in bonuses that you'll get ahead of time. So that's kind of fun because I want women to start learning as they're waiting for the book to come. And yeah, it'll be out officially March 25th, but howtomenopause.com or wherever you get your books. I think it's actually on sale now, so that's good. It's discounted.
Yes. So
Yeah,
look at her book and then, follow her on Instagram. She's always got really cool stuff, and her TikTok is a killer.
thank you.
So make sure you go follow her on TikTok as well. And she's always got fun things going on over there. And please go get her book. Please go read it. Go get it. Follow her. She's incredible.
Thanks,
And
Rebecca.
yeah, for sure. And just, she is the real deal. I've been friends with her for years. I mean, a lot of times I interview people and I don't know them in person. And I tell you guys to follow. Tamsen is awesome. And I know that it will change your life to go read her book. So
Thank
definitely
you.
go check it out. So is there anything else that we missed
No, no,
that
I'll show you the book. It took me forever to pick the title, but that's what it looks like. So I'm super excited.
so excited? And she did all her research. So if you're feeling like you're just not sure, what's going on with your life, I mean, my grandmother used to say, like, aging is one of the things that you're not getting out of. It's like if you are, going to continue living on this planet, you're gonna go through it. So make
Yes.
sure that you do it right. You know.
Yes,
We
for
want to feel
sure.
good. Yes. So thank you for tackling this super important topic and making sure that we all do it well. So, and you are the pillar of that. Look at you. Look
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Tamsen.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
Hi, Charles. Oh, Charles. Charles is one of one of my coaches, one of my high conflict
Oh, nice.
coaches. He's amazing.
Hi,
Charles
Charles.
Charles is a super fan and he's amazing, absolutely amazing. So, and I'm going to see Charles probably here in about an hour. So thank you all. I appreciate all of you guys for being here. And thank you, Tamsen, for
Thank
tackling
you.
this super important topic. And I will see you all super soon. Mwah.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys. Bye.